Historical Stories for Sleep, Volume 3, Whispers of the Ancient World. Section 1, Introduction and the River of Time. Welcome once more, gentle traveler, to this sacred space between waking and sleeping, this liminal realm where time itself becomes fluid and permeable. As you settle into comfort, as your body finds its natural resting position, as your breath begins to slow and deepen of its own accord, know that you are joining a river of consciousness that has flowed through all human history, connecting you to every person who has ever sought the healing darkness of sleep. Breathe deeply now, filling your lungs completely, then releasing that breath with a soft sigh of relief, of letting go, of surrendering the day's burdens. Again, breathe in peace, breathe out tension. One more time, breathing in the quiet that surrounds you, breathing out the noise that fills your mind. With each breath, you are becoming more relaxed, more present, more ready for the journey we will take together. Tonight, we will visit 7 more moments from the vast tapestry of human history, but these journeys will take us to different kinds of experiences. We will walk beside artisans as they complete their day's work, their hands tired but satisfied from creating beauty and utility. We will stand with healers performing ancient rituals of purification and cure. We will sail with navigators who read the stars from heaving decks, finding their way across trackless oceans. We will sit with families as they honor their ancestors and prepare for sleep in dwellings carved from stone, woven from reeds, built from the very earth itself. In each of these moments, we will discover not grand historical events, but something more intimate and true. The quiet satisfaction of work completed, the peace of ritual properly performed, the comfort of home and family, the deep connection to ancestors and traditions that gives meaning to individual existence. These are the experiences that filled most days for most people throughout history. Not battles and coronations, but the patient, repetitive, meaningful work of living, of making, of caring for one another, of maintaining the connections between earth and sky, between past and future, between the living and the dead. Feel your body now, heavy and relaxed, sinking deeper into whatever supports you. Your head rests heavily on its pillow, your neck released from the work of holding it upright all day. Your shoulders drop away from your ears, tension flowing out of them like water flowing downhill. Your arms lie peacefully at your sides or folded on your chest, wherever they have naturally settled, requiring no effort to maintain their position. Your back spreads wide against the bed, each vertebra releasing, each muscle softening. Your hips and legs are heavy, so heavy, as if made of warm sand or soft clay. Your feet relax completely, toes uncurling, ankles loose, all the small bones and muscles that have carried you through the day now surrendering to gravity's gentle pull. The river of time flows backward tonight, carrying us to civilizations that rose and flourished and fell long before our own age began. Yet in these ancient places, we will find people exactly like ourselves, conscious, feeling, striving, resting. They spoke different languages, worshiped different gods, organized their societies in different ways, but in the fundamental experiences of being human, in work and rest, in love and loss, in the daily rhythms of sunrise and sunset, in the universal need for sleep. They were our brothers and sisters, our ancestors, ourselves wearing different faces, living in different times. As we journey together, you may notice your thoughts becoming slower, more dreamlike, less connected to the concerns of your daily life. This is natural and welcome. You are entering that beautiful space between conscious thought and sleep, where imagination becomes more vivid, where the boundaries between self and story begin to blur. If you drift away entirely, falling into deep sleep before our journey ends, that is perfect. The stories will continue to work on some deeper level, guiding you gently into the most restful, restorative sleep you have known. There is nowhere you need to be, nothing you need to do, no moment, but this one stretching out before you like an endless shore where gentle waves lap at the sand, each wave erasing the marks of the one before, leaving everything fresh and new. You are safe, you are comfortable, you are exactly where you should be. The only task before you is to listen, to imagine, and to allow yourself to gradually, inevitably, peacefully drift towards sleep. Let us begin our journey in ancient Egypt, In the golden age of the pharaohs, when the Nile flowed as it always had, bringing life to the desert, when great temples rose to honor the gods, when scribes preserved in hieroglyphs the wisdom of their age. The sun is setting over Thebes, painting the western cliffs in shades of crimson and gold, and we find ourselves in the chamber of a royal scribe who is completing his day's sacred work, recording the words that will endure for thousands of years, speaking to us across the vast silence of centuries. Section 2. Ancient Egypt, Scribe's Chamber at Thebes, 1350 BCE. The evening light slants through the high window of the scribe's chamber, transformed into liquid gold as it passes through the linen curtain that filters the harsh rays of Ra's descending chariot. Amenhotep, whose name means harmonious, is satisfied, sets down his reed brush with the careful precision that has characterized every movement of his 40-year career as a royal scribe. Before him on the low desk lies a sheet of papyrus, its surface covered with columns of hieroglyphs rendered in black ink, with important words picked out in red, the color of power, of emphasis, of the desert that surrounds the fertile black land of Egypt. Amenhotep is 58 years old, his body still strong despite the sedentary nature of his profession, his hands steady, his eyes sharp enough to distinguish the finest details of hieroglyphic writing. He wears a simple white linen kilt, the mark of his status as a man of learning rather than labor, and a broad collar of blue faience beads that clicks softly when he moves. His head is shaved in the manner of scribes and priests, making him cooler in Egypt's fierce heat and marking his dedication to purity and order. The chamber where he works is part of the temple complex dedicated to Amenhotep, the king of gods, whose massive temple dominates Thebes as the sun dominates the sky. The room is small but beautiful, its walls painted with scenes of scribes presenting their work to the gods, of Thoth, the ibis-headed god of writing and wisdom, blessing those who master the sacred hieroglyphs. The floor is packed earth, swept clean daily, covered with woven reed mats. A wooden chest in the corner holds Amenhotep's materials, rolls of papyrus, reed brushes, cakes of black and red ink, small jars of water, pumice stones for smoothing papyrus, and most precious of all, his palette, a flat piece of wood with two circular wells for grinding ink, which has belonged to 3 generations of scribes in his family. The text Amenhotep has been copying today is a hymn to the Aten, the sun disk, composed during the controversial reign of Pharaoh Akhenaten, who attempted to make the Aten the supreme god, diminishing the power of Ammonius and the other traditional deities. Amenhotep himself is conservative in his religious views, uncomfortable with Akhenaten's radical changes, but as a scribe, his duty is to record accurately, not to judge. The words flow from his brush regardless of his personal feelings. How manifold are your works? They are hidden from the face of man, O sole God, like whom there is no other. He reads over what he has written, checking for errors. A mistake in a religious text is more than mere carelessness. It is a kind of sacrilege, a disruption of Ma'at, the cosmic order that holds chaos at bay. Every hieroglyph must be perfect, every word correctly spelled, every line properly aligned. This is why scribes are honored, why they occupy a privileged position in Egyptian society. They are the keepers of words, the preservers of knowledge, the bridge between the divine and the human, between past and future. The light continues to fade, and Amenhotep knows he must soon stop work. Hieroglyphs cannot be written accurately by lamplight. The shadows cast by flickering flames make it too easy to misjudge proportions, to place signs incorrectly. He carefully caps his ink jars, washes his brushes in a small bowl of water, and sets them aside to dry. The papyrus sheet he has been working on is left to dry as well, weighted at the corners to keep it flat. Tomorrow he will continue, beginning a new column, working his way methodically through the text until the entire hymn has been preserved. Rising from his low stool, his joints protesting slightly after hours of sitting, Amenhotep performs a brief ritual of thanks, bowing before the small statue of Thoth that sits in a niche in the wall. He whispers a prayer, asking the god to guide his hand, to keep his eyes sharp, to grant him many more years of service. Thoth does not respond, of course, but Amenhotep feels the comfort of the ritual, the sense of connection to something greater than himself. He leaves his chamber and walks through the temple complex, his sandals slapping softly against the stone pavements. The temple is beginning its evening transformation, priests moving through the corridors lighting lamps, the smell of incense growing stronger as the evening offerings are prepared. Amenhotep pauses at the edge of the great court, looking west toward the Nile and the cliffs beyond. The sun is touching the horizon now, a perfect disk of molten copper, descending toward the realm of Osiris, toward the underworld where it will battle the serpent Apophis through the hours of darkness before emerging victorious at dawn. The sky is spectacular, bands of orange and pink and purple layered like the strata in the cliffs, like the layers of history buried in the earth. The Nile flows serene and eternal, its waters reflecting the sunset, fishing boats returning to shore with their day's catch, ferry boats carrying the last travelers from the east bank to the west, from the land of the living to the land of the dead, where the tombs and mortuary temples cluster. The river is everything to Egypt, source of life, highway of commerce, boundary between the ordered world of cultivation and the chaotic desert beyond. Without the Nile's annual flood bringing rich silt to fertilize the fields, Egypt would be merely another stretch of the Sahara, lifeless and empty. Amenhotep watches until the sun disappears completely, swallowed by the western mountains. The moment of sunset always moves him, reminding him of his own mortality, of the fact that he too will one day journey to the west, will stand before Osiris to have his heart weighed against the feather of Ma'at, will discover whether he has lived justly enough to merit eternal life in the field of reeds, the paradise that awaits the worthy dead. He makes his way home through streets that are growing dark, though the evening is still warm, the heat of the day radiating from mud brick walls, from the packed earth of the streets. His house is modest but comfortable, appropriate to his status as a respected scribe. It has a walled courtyard with a small garden where date palms grow and a pool reflects the emerging stars. His wife, Mutamwiya, greets him with the affection of 30 years of marriage, and together they share the evening meal: bread and beer, onions and lentils, dried fish, dates and figs for sweetness. After eating, Amenhotep sits in the courtyard enjoying the cool evening breeze that always comes after sunset, listening to the sounds of the city settling into night. Distant voices, dogs barking, the occasional bray of a donkey, the eternal whisper of the Nile. His wife joins him, bringing beer flavored with dates, and they sit in companionable silence, their relationship deepened by decades of shared life, of raising children who are now adults with their own families, of facing together the sorrows and joys that come to all people. When the stars are fully visible, Sirius brilliant on the horizon, marking the coming of the flood, the constellation of Osiris dominating the southern sky, Amenhotep retires to his sleeping chamber. The room is simple, its walls painted white to reflect what light there is, a wooden bed frame strung with ropes supporting a thin mattress, linen sheets, a wooden headrest that elevates his head and keeps scorpions from crawling into his hair during the night. He lies down, his body grateful for rest after a day of careful concentration. Through the high window, he can see a rectangle of star-filled sky. He thinks about the hieroglyphs he wrote today, about how they will endure long after he is gone, how they will speak to people in unimaginable futures, carrying forward the words of this age. This gives him satisfaction and comfort. His individual life is brief, but his work participates in something eternal, something that defeats death through the power of writing, of preservation, of memory made permanent. His breathing slows and deepens. He murmurs a final prayer, asking the gods to protect his house through the night, to grant him peaceful sleep and safe awakening. Around him, Thebes sleeps, a great city of perhaps 50,000 souls, each one a mystery, each one living their own story, together creating the complex tapestry of Egyptian civilization that has endured for over 1,000 years and will endure for 1,000 more. Amenhotep dreams of hieroglyphs, of the sacred signs that connect gods and humans, of the eternal words that flow from his brush like water from the Nile, giving life, preserving knowledge, maintaining Ma'at against the ever-present threat of chaos. In his dream, he writes on papyrus that stretches to infinity, and every word he writes becomes real, manifesting in the world, creating reality through the power of language. The dream is peaceful, purposeful, a reflection of his deepest belief that writing is sacred work, that scribes serve the gods by preserving truth, that words have the power to create and sustain the world itself. Section 3. Indus Valley Civilization, Artisan's Workshop, 2500 BCE. The afternoon heat is finally breaking as evening approaches in Mohenjo-daro, one of the great cities of the Indus Valley Civilization. In a workshop on a street lined with brick houses, all built to the same exacting standard, all connected to the sophisticated drainage system that is one of the marvels of this ancient culture, an artisan named Daksha puts the finishing touches on a seal he has been carving for the past 3 days. The seal is small, perhaps 2 centimeters square, carved from steatite, a soft stone that can be worked with copper tools but hardens with time and heating. Its surface shows a beautifully rendered zebu bull, the humped cattle that are sacred in this culture, surrounded by symbols from the still undeciphered script of the Indus people. These seals are used to mark ownership, to seal containers of trade goods, to authenticate documents. They are found throughout the Indus Valley and beyond, carried by traders who connect this civilization to Mesopotamia, to the Persian Gulf, to the distant lands where copper and precious stones are mined. Daksha is 35 years old, the son and grandson of seal carvers, trained from childhood in this exacting craft that requires steady hands, sharp eyes, and infinite patience. A single slip of the tool can ruin days of work, turning a valuable seal into worthless rubble. He works by natural light, sitting cross-legged on a cushion in his workshop, the unfinished seal held in one hand, a copper burin in the other, making tiny, precise cuts that gradually reveal the image hidden in the stone. The workshop is part of his house, a typical Mohenjo-daro dwelling with rooms arranged around a central courtyard, thick brick walls that keep the interior cool even during the fierce heat of summer, a flat roof where the family sleeps during the hottest months. The city itself is a marvel of planning and engineering, streets laid out in a precise grid, houses of baked brick rather than the mud brick common elsewhere, a sophisticated water supply system with wells and bathrooms, drains that carry waste away to covered sewers, amenities that will not be seen again in human civilization for thousands of years. As the light fades, Daksha sets aside his tools. The seal is nearly complete. Tomorrow he will make the final refinements, drill the hole through which a cord can be threaded, polish the surface until it gleams. Then it will be fired to harden it, making it durable enough to last for generations. This particular seal has been commissioned by a merchant who trades in cotton textiles, the fine cotton cloth for which the Indus cities are famous, woven from the cotton plants that grow in the irrigated fields surrounding the city. Daksha stands and stretches, feeling the stiffness in his back and shoulders from hours of hunched concentration. He is satisfied with the work, proud of the crisp lines, the naturalistic rendering of the bull, the elegant proportions of the script characters. These seals are more than functional objects. They are works of art, expressions of aesthetic values, representations of the creatures and symbols that hold meaning for his people. He walks to the courtyard where his wife, Shanti, is preparing the evening meal over a clay stove, adding fuel to keep the fire burning. Their 2 children play nearby, a boy of 7 and a girl of 5. Their voices high and cheerful in the cooling air. The courtyard is the heart of the home, open to the sky, with a well in one corner providing fresh water, potted plants adding greenery, a rope bed where they can sit or sleep. Water is abundant in Mohenjo-daro, more abundant than in the desert cities of Mesopotamia or Egypt. The Indus River flows nearby, its annual floods less predictable than the Nile's, but still bringing fertile silt to refresh the fields. The city has been positioned carefully, built on a massive platform of baked brick to raise it above the highest flood levels, protected from the river's destructive power while benefiting from its gifts. The family eats together as darkness falls, flatbread made from wheat, lentil dal seasoned with spices, yogurt from buffalo milk, vegetables cooked in ghee. The food is simple but nourishing, the flavors familiar and comforting. After the meal, Daksha and Shanti sit talking while the children play one last game before bed, their laughter echoing off the courtyard walls. Daksha thinks about the seal he is making, about the merchant who commissioned it, about the network of trade that connects Mohenjo-daro to distant cities and lands. The Indus civilization is wealthy, its prosperity based on agriculture and trade, on the cotton and grain and semi-precious stones that move along trade routes stretching thousands of miles. The seals he makes are small but essential parts of this economic system, markers of identity and ownership that allow commerce to function across distances too great for personal relationships. As the stars emerge, constellations that Daksha knows by names in his own language, names that will be forgotten when this civilization collapses mysteriously some centuries from now, leaving only ruins and artifacts, and the enigmatic script that no one will be able to read. The family prepares for sleep. They perform a simple ritual, pouring water as a libation to the household spirits, asking for protection through the night, for health and prosperity for their family, for the continued flourishing of their city. Daksha and Shanti climb the stairs to the roof where rope beds have been set up to catch any breeze. The children are already drowsy, quickly falling asleep in their own beds. The parents lie down, looking up at the vast sweep of stars, at the Milky Way arching across the sky like a river of light. Daksha feels the day's tiredness settling into his bones, the pleasant exhaustion that comes from focused work well done. His hands still remember the feel of the stone, the resistance it offered to his tools, the gradual emergence of form from formlessness. This is the satisfaction of craft, of making, of using skill and patience to create something useful and beautiful. He thinks about his children, about teaching his son the seal carver's art as his own father taught him, about the continuation of tradition across generations. He thinks about the city around him, its orderly streets and sophisticated systems, its prosperity and peace. He has heard stories of the old days, of earlier times when people lived in small villages, when they did not know the arts of writing and seal-making and city building. How fortunate he is to live in this age of achievement, of order, of civilization. But he does not dwell on these thoughts. The night is for rest, not for reflection. He turns on his side, draws the light sheet over his body, and closes his eyes. Around him, Mohenjo-daro sleeps, 20,000 people or more, all resting under the same stars, all part of the same intricate social organism, all contributing through their labor to the maintenance of this remarkable civilization that will vanish so completely that future ages will not even suspect its existence until archaeologists in the 20th century uncover its remains and marvel at its sophistication. Daksha dreams of carving, his hands moving in familiar patterns, the stone yielding to his will, revealing images of bulls and tigers, unicorns and elephants, the animals that populate his world and his imagination. The dream is peaceful, meditative, a continuation of the work that fills his waking hours, his sleeping mind rehearsing the movements, refining the technique, preparing for tomorrow's labor. When morning comes, he will wake refreshed, ready to complete the seal, to begin another, to continue the work that gives his life meaning and purpose, that connects him to tradition and to the future, that makes him not just Daksha the individual, but Daksha the seal carver, part of the great chain of craftsmen who maintain the arts and skills that civilization requires. Section 4. Ancient Greece, Healer's Temple, 400 BCE. The last light of day illuminates the columns of the Asclepion, the temple sanctuary dedicated to Asclepius, god of healing, built on a hillside outside the city of Epidaurus. The physician-priest Hippocles, named after the great Hippocrates whose teachings have revolutionized Greek medicine, moves through the sacred precincts performing the evening rituals that prepare the sanctuary for the night, for the sacred sleep during which the god may visit suppliants in dreams and reveal cures for their ailments. Hippocles is 42 years old, tall and lean, his beard trimmed in the fashion of educated Greeks, his chiton of fine white wool marking his status as both physician and priest. He has studied medicine in Kos, the island where Hippocrates taught, has learned to observe symptoms carefully, to propose natural rather than supernatural causes for disease, to understand the body as a system governed by the balance of four humors: blood, phlegm, yellow bile, and black bile. Yet he also serves as priest in this temple, where healing combines rational medicine with sacred ritual, where the god's intervention is sought alongside careful observation and treatment. The Asclepian is beautiful in the evening light, its marble columns glowing warm against the darkening sky, the surrounding grove of cypresses and pines creating shadows that shift and sway in the breeze. The sanctuary includes not only the main temple, but also a theater where healing dramas are performed, baths for ritual purification, a gymnasium for exercise, dormitories where suppliants will sleep hoping for healing dreams, and Hippocles' own chambers where he prepares medicines and consults with patients. A group of suppliants has arrived today seeking healing. A merchant with chronic stomach pains, a woman who has been unable to conceive a child, an elderly farmer whose joints ache unbearably, a young athlete who injured his leg in competition and fears it will never heal properly. They have made the pilgrimage to Epidaurus, brought offerings for the god, paid the required fees. Now they must undergo purification before they can sleep in the sacred dormitory where dreams may come. Hippocles leads them to the baths, where they wash in cold spring water that flows from a sacred source, believed to carry healing properties. The water is indeed pure and clean, free of the contamination common in city wells, and this alone contributes to healing. The suppliants wash thoroughly, not just their bodies, but symbolically washing away the spiritual impurities that Greeks believe can contribute to physical illness. After bathing, they dress in clean white garments provided by the temple and gather in the main temple for the evening sacrifice. Hippocles leads the ritual, offering a black ram to Asclepius, its blood poured on the altar, its meat roasted and shared among all present. The god must be honored, his favor sought through proper ceremony. Even Hippocles, who knows that many diseases have natural causes and respond to natural treatments, believes that the divine realm and the natural realm interpenetrate, that healing is both art and grace. As darkness falls completely, the suppliants are led to the dormitory, a long hall with sleeping couches arranged along the walls. They lie down, wrapped in their white garments, waiting for sleep, hoping for dreams. Hippocles moves among them, speaking words of comfort and encouragement. He has learned that hope itself is therapeutic, that patients who believe in their healing often recover more quickly than those who despair. When all the suppliants are settled, Hippocles retires to his own chambers. He lights an oil lamp, sits at his desk, and reviews his notes on the day's patients. The merchant's stomach pains likely result from anxiety and poor diet. Hippocles will recommend bland foods, moderate exercise, and techniques for calming the mind. The woman unable to conceive may have a physical obstruction, or perhaps the problem lies with her husband. This requires delicate investigation. The farmer's joint pain is probably arthritis, the natural deterioration of age, for which Hippocles can offer willow bark tea to reduce pain and anti-inflammatory poultices, but no cure. The athlete's leg is healing well. The injury was not as severe as feared, and with rest and gentle exercise, full recovery should come. These are his honest medical assessments, based on observation and the systematic knowledge passed down through generations of Greek physicians. But he will present them to the patients as interpretations of the dreams the god sends, for this preserves their faith and makes them more likely to follow the prescribed treatments. Hippocles sees no contradiction in this. The god works through natural means. Rational medicine and divine healing are two aspects of the same reality. He makes notes on wax tablets, recording observations that he will later transfer to papyrus for his collection of case studies. Hippocrates taught that careful observation and record-keeping are essential to advancing medical knowledge, that by comparing cases, physicians can discover patterns and develop better treatments. Hippocles is part of this tradition, contributing his small portion to the growing body of medical wisdom. The lamp flickers, shadows dancing on the walls painted with scenes of Asclepius healing the sick, accompanied by his daughters Hygeia and Panacea, personifications of hygiene and cure. Hippocles thinks about the dual nature of his calling, the way he stands between the rational and the sacred, between observation and faith. Some of his colleagues, particularly the younger physicians trained in the new methods, are skeptical of temple healing, considering its superstition. But Hippocles has seen too many cases where faith and ritual contributed to recovery, where the patient's belief in divine intervention mobilized their own healing powers. The mind and body are not separate. he believes, but intimately connected. A patient who believes they will recover often does recover, while a patient who has lost hope often dies despite treatment. The dreams that come in the Asclepian, whether sent by the god or arising from the patient's own mind, create hope and expectation, and these psychological states have real physical effects. Hippocles completes his notes and prepares for bed. His chamber is simple but comfortable, with a sleeping couch, a chest for clothing and medical supplies, shelves holding his collection of medical texts, precious scrolls copied from the works of Hippocrates and other authorities. He performs a brief prayer, thanking Asclepius for the privilege of serving as his priest-physician, asking for continued skill and wisdom. Lying down, he can hear the distant sounds of the suppliants in the dormitory, their breathing, occasional movements, the soft calls of night birds in the cypress grove. He thinks about healing, about the mystery of why some recover and others do not, about the limits of medical knowledge and the need for humility in the face of that vast unknown. He has dedicated his life to healing, to alleviating suffering, to understanding the workings of the human body and mind. Some days he feels successful, when a patient recovers beyond expectations. Other days he feels helpless, when disease progresses despite his best efforts, when death comes regardless of treatments. But he continues, day after day, because this is his calling, his purpose, the work to which he has been called by both inclination and training. Sleep comes gently to Hippocles, and he dreams of the god Asclepius appearing to him as a kindly old physician, showing him new treatments, new ways of understanding disease, new paths to healing. Whether this is truly divine revelation or his own mind processing the day's experiences, he cannot say. But when he wakes in the morning, he remembers the dream clearly and makes notes of the insights it contained, adding them to his growing collection of medical knowledge. In the dormitory, the suppliants also dream, each experiencing visions unique to their needs and expectations. Some dream of the god touching their afflicted parts, of his healing hands driving out disease. Others dream of snakes, the god's sacred animal, licking their wounds. Still others dream of prescriptions, of specific treatments they should follow. In the morning, Hippocles will interpret these dreams, will prescribe treatments based on what the god has supposedly revealed, and many of the patients will indeed begin to recover, helped by the combination of rational medicine, sacred ritual, and the powerful placebo effect of belief and hope. Hashtag Section 5. Han Dynasty China, Silk Weaver's House, 100 CE. The evening shadows lengthen across the courtyard of the Silk Weaver's House in Luoyang, capital of the Han Dynasty, one of the greatest empires the world has known. Inside the workshop, the master weaver Chun Wei guides her shuttle through the final pattern of the day, her movements practiced and precise, the silk threads gleaming in the fading light like captured moonbeams, like liquid stars transformed into fabric. Chun Wei is 53 years old, her hair now gray, but her hands still steady, her eyes still sharp enough to distinguish the subtle color variations in dyed silk threads. She comes from a family that has woven silk for 6 generations, the closely guarded techniques passed from mother to daughter, creating fabrics so fine and beautiful that they command extraordinary prices, traveling the Silk Road to distant lands where emperors and kings pay fortunes for even small pieces of Han silk. The loom before her is a complex mechanism of wooden frames and heddles, warp threads stretched tight, weft threads carried back and forth by the shuttle she controls with effortless grace. The pattern she is creating today is a traditional one, stylized clouds and dragons in gold thread against a background of deep blue, a design associated with imperial power. This particular bolt of silk has been commissioned by a court official to be made into ceremonial robes that will mark his status and honor his family. The silk itself began as tiny eggs laid by silk moths, carefully tended and hatched. The resulting caterpillars fed on fresh mulberry leaves for weeks until they spun their cocoons of raw silk filament. The cocoons were then boiled to kill the pupae and soften the silk, which was carefully unwound, each cocoon producing a thread hundreds of meters long, then twisted with other threads to create yarn strong enough for weaving. The yarn was dyed using pigments derived from plants and minerals, indigo for blue, madder for red, safflower for yellow, combinations creating every shade imaginable. This entire process, from moth to finished fabric, takes months of careful work by many hands. Yet Chun-Wei knows every step intimately, having participated in all aspects of silk production throughout her long career. She understands that silk weaving is not just a craft but an art, requiring technical skill, aesthetic judgment, patience, and a kind of meditation in motion, a surrendering of self to the rhythm of the work. As the light fades too much for further weaving, Chun-Wei stops, secures the threads, and covers the loom with a cloth to protect it from dust. Her workshop is part of a larger compound where her extended family lives. Her elderly mother, her husband who manages the business side of their silk operation, her 3 adult children with their spouses and children, a dozen people sharing this space, working together, supporting one another in the complex web of relationships that defines Chinese family life. She walks into the courtyard where her daughter-in-law has prepared the evening meal, a large table set with multiple dishes that the family will share. Rice steamed until each grain is separate and perfect, stir-fried vegetables, pork cooked with ginger and garlic, fish from the Yellow River, soup made from chicken stock and seasonal greens, tea that has been carefully brewed to bring out its subtle flavors. The family gathers as evening deepens into night, 3 generations sitting together, the youngest grandchild being helped by her mother, the elderly grandmother given the honored seat facing south. They eat with chopsticks, each person taking food from the communal dishes, the meal both nourishment and social ritual, a daily reaffirmation of family bonds and mutual obligation. Conversation flows easily, discussion of the day's work, news from the market, concerns about a grandchild's education, plans for tomorrow's activities. Chun-Wei listens more than she speaks, content to observe her family, to see the continuation of traditions she has upheld, to know that when she passes, the work will continue, the silk will still be woven, the family business will endure. After the meal, Chun-Wei retires to the family altar room where she performs the evening ritual honoring the ancestors. Incense is lit, its fragrant smoke rising toward the wooden tablets that represent deceased family members stretching back generations. She bows 3 times, murmuring prayers, reporting the day's activities to those who have gone before, asking for their continued blessing and protection. The ritual connects her to the past, to the long line of silk weavers from whom she descends, whose skills she has inherited, whose memories she preserves. In Chinese thought, the ancestors are not truly gone but remain present, interested in their descendants' welfare, able to influence events for good or ill depending on whether they are properly honored. Chun-Wei finds comfort in this belief, in the sense that she is never truly alone, that she is part of something larger than her individual existence. She prepares for sleep in the room she shares with her husband, a simple space with a carved wooden bed, a chest for clothing, a small table with oil lamp and tea things. The bed has been warmed by a servant with heated stones, making it comfortable on this cool spring evening. Chun-Wei lies down, pulling the silk quilt over her body. Silk even here, the fabric she has worked with all her life, now keeping her warm, connecting her work and her rest. Through the paper window screen, she can see the courtyard partially lit by a crescent moon. She hears the sounds of the household settling for the night, children being hushed to sleep, quiet conversations, the rustle of clothing, creaking of beds. These familiar sounds are comforting, marking the successful completion of another day, the continuation of family life through its eternal rhythms. Chun-Wei thinks about the silk she wove today, about how it will travel from her loom to the court official's wardrobe, how it will be worn at important ceremonies, seen by emperors and nobles, admired for its beauty and craftsmanship. But more than this, she thinks about the tradition she embodies, the skills that have been passed down through generations, and that she has passed to her daughter, who is now teaching her own daughter. This is a kind of immortality, she reflects, not of the individual body, which must age and die, but of the art, the knowledge, the tradition that continues regardless of individual lives. Her breathing deepens, slows. The day's work has tired her in a pleasant way, the fatigue that comes from purposeful activity, from creating beauty, from contributing to family prosperity. Tomorrow she will rise early, will return to the loom, will continue the pattern she began today. The work never truly ends, but this does not trouble her. The work gives structure to her days, meaning to her life, connection to past and future. She dreams of silk, as she often does, of threads endlessly weaving, of patterns emerging and transforming, of colors shifting and blending. In her dreams, the silk comes alive, flows like water, rises like wind, becomes clouds that drift across skies of deepest blue. She is weaving the fabric of the world itself, each thread a human life, each intersection a moment of connection, the pattern too vast to comprehend, but beautiful in every detail. The dream is peaceful, meditative, a reflection of the deep satisfaction she finds in her craft, in the daily work that has filled most of her 53 years, and that will continue until her hands can no longer hold the shuttle, until her eyes can no longer distinguish the threads. Hashtag Section 6, Polynesian Navigation. Outrigger canoe at sea, 1200 CE. The sun descends toward the endless horizon, painting the Pacific Ocean in shades of copper and gold, transforming the waves into moving mountains of liquid light. On the deck of a double-hulled voyaging canoe, the master navigator Kanaloa stands at the steering oar, his bare feet gripping the smooth wood, his body swaying instinctively with the vessel's motion, reading the sea's mood through sensations that have become as natural as breathing. Kanaloa is 68 years old, his skin darkened and weathered by decades under the tropical sun, his body still strong and capable despite his years. He has been a navigator since adolescence, learning the art from his grandfather, memorizing the star paths that connect islands across thousands of miles of open ocean, developing the ability to read wave patterns and cloud formations, bird flights and ocean currents, the subtle signs that reveal land's presence long before it becomes visible. The canoe is a masterpiece of Polynesian shipbuilding, two hulls carved from massive logs, connected by crossbeams lashed with coconut fiber rope, a platform built between them carrying supplies and crew, a large triangular sail woven from pandanus leaves that can catch even the lightest breeze. The vessel is perhaps 20 meters long, capable of carrying 30 people plus provisions, designed for voyages that may last weeks, crossing distances that would terrify European sailors who hug coastlines and fear the open sea. They have been at sea for 11 days now, sailing from Tahiti toward the Marquesas Islands, following a route that Kanaloa has traveled dozens of times. There are 22 people aboard, crew to handle the sail and steering oars, several families relocating to establish new settlements, provisions for the journey stored in woven baskets and sealed gourds, dried fish and breadfruit, fermented poi, coconuts, fresh water that must be carefully rationed. The voyage is proceeding well. The weather has been favorable, the winds steady from the east, the seas moderate. Kanaloa has been navigating by the stars at night, particularly by the rising and setting positions of key stars that mark the direction to their destination, and by wave patterns and other signs during the day. He carries no instruments, no maps, no written guides. Everything is memorized, held in his mind and body, a vast store of knowledge accumulated over centuries by navigators who explored and settled the largest ocean on Earth. As twilight deepens, Kanaloa performs the evening ritual, chanting prayers to Tangaroa, god of the ocean, and to the other deities who protect voyagers, prayers of thanks for safe passage so far, requests for continued favor, acknowledgement of the sea's power and the human vulnerability before it. The crew joins in the chanting, their voices rising and falling with the waves, connecting them to their ancestors who made these same voyages, who found islands in the vastness and made them home. The evening meal is simple: cold-cooked fish, poi that has fermented slightly during the journey, coconut meat and water, dried bananas for sweetness. They eat while sitting on the platform between the hulls, the canoe rising and falling gently, the motion so constant that no one notices it anymore. Conversation is relaxed and cheerful despite the monotony of the journey. These people are practiced voyagers. Many have made similar trips before. They trust Kanaloa completely, knowing his reputation, his proven ability to find islands in the trackless ocean. After eating, as full darkness arrives, Kanaloa studies the sky. The stars are emerging in their familiar patterns, the great constellations that Polynesians have used for navigation since time immemorial. There is the star path they are following, a series of stars that rise and set along a line pointing toward their destination. There are the pointer stars that confirm their latitude. There is the Southern Cross, marking south, rotating around a point in the sky where no bright star exists, but which navigators learn to visualize. Kanaloa adjusts the steering or slightly, making a minor course correction based on the star's positions. The helmsman who will take the next watch observes carefully, learning from the master's subtle adjustments. Navigation is taught through apprenticeship, through years of voyaging with experienced navigators, through gradual absorption of knowledge that cannot be fully captured in words, but must be learned through the body, through direct experience. The night is beautiful, warm, and clear, the ocean transformed into liquid darkness studded with reflected starlight. The Milky Way stretches overhead like a river, like a path leading to the realm of the gods. Phosphorescence glows in the canoe's wake, tiny organisms lighting up when disturbed, creating a trail of cold fire in the water. Flying fish break the surface occasionally, their wings catching moonlight as they glide above the waves before plunging back into darkness. Most of the crew settles down to sleep on the platform, wrapped in tapa cloth, using rolled mats as pillows. They sleep in shifts, some always awake to handle the canoe, to watch for squalls or other dangers, to maintain the course toward their destination. Kanaloa remains at the steering or through the first part of the night. As is his custom, his body relaxed but alert, his mind empty of thought but acutely aware of wind direction, wave patterns, the stars slow wheeling across the sky. He thinks about the generations of navigators who came before him, who discovered and settled every habitable island in this vast ocean, who developed the knowledge systems that make such voyages possible. The Pacific is larger than all the world's land masses combined, yet his ancestors explored it thoroughly, finding islands as small as single atolls in millions of square kilometers of empty sea. This achievement rivals anything accomplished by any civilization, yet it required no writing, no instruments, only the human mind and body trained to read nature's signs, only courage and skill and the accumulated wisdom of generations. Near midnight, Kanaloa finally surrenders the steering oar to his apprentice, a young man of 25 who has voyaged with him for 10 years and is nearly ready to navigate independently. Kanaloa gives him quiet instructions. Watch this star path, feel the pattern of swells from the east, maintain this angle to the wind, then retires to his sleeping place on the platform. He lies on his back, looking up at the stars, feeling the canoe's motion, hearing the eternal sounds of ocean voyaging, the creak of lashings, the hiss of water along the hulls, the flap of the sail, the voices of crew members keeping watch. These sounds are home to him. He has spent more of his life at sea than on land, feels more comfortable on a moving deck than on solid ground. He thinks about landfall, about the moment when the island will first appear, probably as a cloud formation or a change in wave patterns, long before the island itself is visible. He knows exactly when this should occur if his navigation has been accurate. The anticipation is pleasant, the satisfaction of finding a destination thousands of miles from the starting point, of proving once again that the old knowledge still works, that the star paths are true, that humans can navigate without instruments by reading the sky and sea. Kanaloa sleeps deeply despite the canoe's motion, his body completely adapted to life at sea, his mind at peace. He dreams of voyaging, as he often does, of canoes sailing toward distant horizons, of islands rising from the sea like gifts from the gods, of the great migrations of his people across this ocean larger than all others. In his dreams, he sees his ancestors, the first navigators who ventured into unknown waters seeking new lands, guided by courage and skill and the star knowledge they carried in their minds. He sees himself as one link in this chain stretching back into mythic time and forward into an unimaginable future, sees his knowledge passing to his apprentice who will teach another generation, keeping alive the tradition that allowed humans to settle the Pacific. The canoe sails on through the darkness, steady and true, following the star path toward the islands that wait somewhere beyond the horizon, the wave patterns speaking to those who know how to listen, the ocean revealing its secrets to those who have devoted their lives to learning its language. Kanaloa sleeps, and the sea rocks him like a mother rocking a child, the ancient rhythm that has lulled countless voyagers to sleep, that will continue as long as humans travel the ocean roads that connect island to island across this greatest of all seas. Section 7. Ancestral Puebloan, Mesa Verde Cliff Dwelling, 1150 CE. The sun touches the rim of the canyon, its last rays illuminating the cliff dwellings built into the massive alcove carved by centuries of erosion into the sandstone walls. In one of the dwelling rooms, a woman named Nuva puts the final touches on a ceramic bowl she has been painting, her brush made from yucca fibers applying black paint derived from boiled plants to the white-slipped surface, creating geometric patterns that represent clouds, rain, the movement of water that is always scarce and therefore sacred in this high desert landscape. Nuva is 43 years old, mother of 5 children, grandmother to 3, a master potter whose work is recognized throughout the pueblos as exceptionally beautiful and technically perfect. She learned the craft from her mother and grandmother, part of a tradition that stretches back centuries, creating vessels that are both functional and ceremonial, that store water and corn, that are used in rituals and buried with the dead, that embody in their forms and decorations the worldview and aesthetic values of her people. The dwelling room where she works is small, perhaps 3 meters square, with walls of carefully shaped sandstone blocks mortared with adobe, a roof of wooden beams supporting smaller branches, and a layer of mud. The room is one of dozens built into this alcove, stacked in tiers like a honeycomb, connected by ladders and narrow passages, housing a community of perhaps 150 people who have chosen this dramatic location for reasons both practical and spiritual. The cliff dwelling provides protection from enemies and from the elements. The overhang shields the rooms from rain and snow, while the south-facing orientation captures winter sun for warmth. In summer, the alcove provides shade during the hottest hours. The location is also spiritually significant, connecting the people to the earth and sky, to the ancestors who emerged from the underworld through the Sipapu, the opening in the earth that is remembered in every kiva, the underground ceremonial chamber that is the spiritual heart of Pueblo life. As the light fades, Nuva sets aside her completed bowl to dry. Tomorrow she will fire it in an outdoor kiln, using carefully controlled heat to harden the clay and set the paint, transforming soft earth into durable ceramic that may last for centuries. Tonight, she must prepare the evening meal for her family, grind corn for the next day's bread, participate in the communal activities that bind the Pueblo together. She climbs down the ladder from her dwelling room to the courtyard level, a narrow terrace in front of the rooms where much of the Pueblo's daily life occurs. Other women are also preparing evening meals, grinding corn on stone metates, tending cooking fires, calling children who have been playing in the plaza. The air is filled with the smell of smoke and cooking food, with voices calling to one another, with the sounds of community life. Nuva's fire pit is carved into the bedrock, lined with stones to retain heat. She builds up the fire using juniper wood collected from the mesa top, then places a clay griddle over the flames to cook the corn cakes she has prepared. She adds dried beans that have been soaking all day, seasons them with wild herbs collected from the canyon. The meal is simple but nourishing, the staples that have sustained Pueblo peoples for generations. Corn, beans, squash, the 3 sisters that grow together, each supporting the others, providing complete nutrition when combined. Her husband returns from the fields on the mesa top, carrying more firewood and a basket of squash. He is tired from a day of tending crops that depend on careful water management, terraces that catch runoff from rare rains, check dams that slow water's flow, every technique developed over centuries to coax life from this arid land. The agricultural work is hard, the margin for error small. A drought lasting several years can force the abandonment of entire regions, and indeed this will happen here within a few generations, when prolonged drought combines with overuse of resources to make this location unsustainable. But tonight, there is food and water, family and community, the continuation of the rhythms that have sustained Pueblo life since the ancestors emerged from the underworld and built the first villages in this landscape of red rock and blue sky. The family eats together as darkness deepens, Three generations sharing food and conversation. The children listening to their grandfather tell stories of the animal beings who shaped the world in the mythic time before humans, of Coyote the trickster and Spider-Woman the creator, of the hero twins who slew monsters and made the world safe for people. As the stars emerge, constellations that have different names and meanings for the Pueblo peoples than for the Greeks or Chinese or Polynesians, but which are equally important for marking seasons and guiding ceremonial activities. The community gathers in the plaza for evening songs. The men disappear into the kiva, descending the ladder into the underground chamber where they will perform rituals closed to women and uninitiated boys. The women and children remain above, singing songs that have been sung for generations, their voices echoing off the sandstone walls of the alcove, rising toward the darkening sky. Nuva participates fully, her voice joining with others in harmonies that feel ancient, connected to the earth itself, to the spirits of place that inhabit this canyon, to the ancestors whose bones are buried in the rocks and whose presence is felt in every aspect of daily life. The songs are not merely music, but prayers, ways of maintaining the proper relationship with the natural and supernatural forces that determine whether the corn will grow, whether the rains will come, whether the community will flourish or struggle. When the singing ends, Nuva returns to her dwelling room, climbing the ladder carefully in the darkness, feeling her way along familiar paths. Her sleeping room is warm from the day's absorbed heat, the sandstone walls radiating warmth into the small space. She spreads sleeping mats woven from yucca fiber, covers them with rabbit fur blankets, prepares beds for her family. Through the small window opening, she can see a rectangle of star-filled sky and the opposite wall of the canyon, its sandstone layers visible in starlight, each layer representing millions of years of geological time, each containing the fossilized remains of ancient seas and swamps, reminding her that this landscape has seen many changes, many peoples, that her own people's time here is brief in the vast sweep of Earth's history. She lies down, her body tired from the day's work, making pottery, grinding corn, preparing food, tending children, participating in community life. It is a hard existence in many ways, demanding constant labor, vulnerable to drought and crop failure, to raids from enemy tribes, to the 100 dangers of life in this harsh environment. Yet it is also rich with meaning, with beauty, with the deep satisfaction that comes from living close to the land, from creating useful and beautiful objects, from participating in a community bound together by kinship and ritual. Nuva thinks about the bowl she completed today, about how it will be used, about how it might outlast her own life and those of her children and grandchildren, becoming in future ages an artifact that archaeologists will study, trying to understand the people who created such beautiful pottery, who built such remarkable dwellings in the cliffs, who developed sophisticated water management and agricultural techniques, who created a culture uniquely adapted to this challenging landscape. But these are not the thoughts that carry her into sleep. Instead, she thinks of simple things, of tomorrow's work, of the pottery she will fire, of the corn she will grind, of her grandchildren's laughter, of her husband sleeping beside her, of the solid rock walls that shelter them, of the vast sky filled with stars. She thinks of the Kachinas, the spirit beings that mediate between humans and the divine forces, and she murmurs a brief prayer asking for their protection through the night. Sleep comes easily to Nuva, bringing dreams of pottery, of endless coils of clay being shaped and smoothed, of patterns emerging under her brush, of bowls and jars filling with water and corn and all good things, of vessels that hold not just physical substances, but spiritual meanings, connections to ancestors and to the land, to the cycles of planting and harvest, to rain and fertility and the continuation of life itself. The dreams are peaceful, grounded, reflecting her deep connection to her craft and to the place where she lives, to the mesa and canyon that her people have made home, that they have shaped and been shaped by, creating through centuries a unique way of life perfectly adapted to this landscape of stone and sky. Section 8. Closing meditation and the eternal stillness. And so, beloved traveler, we complete another circuit through time's vast landscape, another journey through the sacred evenings that connect all human experience. We have walked beside scribes and weavers, healers and navigators, artisans and potters. We have visited the banks of the Nile and the Indus, the healing temples of Greece, the silk workshops of China, the vast Pacific Ocean, and the red rock canyons of the American Southwest. In each place, in each time, we found the same essential truths. That work gives meaning to life, that craft connects hands to minds to spirits, that communities sustain individuals, that rituals link the living to the dead and to the divine. That evening comes as a gift, offering rest and renewal, preparing us for sleep and dreams. Feel yourself now sinking deeper into that rest, your body so heavy it seems to merge with the bed beneath you, becoming one with the supporting surface, with the earth itself. Your breathing is slow and effortless, each breath carrying you deeper into relaxation, closer to the threshold of sleep, where consciousness begins to dissolve, where the boundaries between self and world grow permeable and finally disappear. Your eyes are closed now, or closing, the lids heavy and still, requiring no effort to maintain their position. Behind your closed eyes is a darkness that is not empty but full, not frightening but welcoming, the fertile void from which all dreams arise, to which all consciousness returns in sleep's embrace. The people we visited tonight have been dead for centuries, their individual lives ended, their bodies returned to earth and water and air. Yet something of them persists in the objects they made, the hieroglyphs that still speak from papyrus and stone, the seals carved from steatite that still bear their maker's artistry, the pottery painted with geometric patterns that still holds meaning for those who understand the symbols, the navigational knowledge preserved in oral traditions that allowed an ocean to become home. And something persists in you as well, some essential quality that transcends individual existence, that connects you to everyone who has ever lived, that makes you part of the great river of human experience flowing from past to future through the eternal present moment. Your individual life is brief, a single wave rising from the ocean and returning to it, but the ocean itself is eternal, and you are both wave and ocean, both individual and universal, both mortal and immortal. Let these paradoxes rest easy in your mind, not requiring resolution, not demanding understanding. The thinking mind wants to grasp and comprehend, but sleep requires letting go of that need, releasing the compulsion to understand, accepting mystery and uncertainty as natural conditions of existence. Your body continues to relax, muscle by muscle, organ by organ, system by system. Your heartbeat slows to its resting rhythm, steady and reliable, beating as it has beaten since before you were born, as it will beat until the moment of your death, the faithful drum marking time, measuring life in pulses. Your breathing deepens further, your lungs filling and emptying automatically, requiring no conscious attention, a perfect example of the body's wisdom, its ability to maintain itself without the mind's interference. The artisans we visited tonight, Daksha carving seals, Chunwei weaving silk, Nuva painting pottery, all achieved a state of consciousness during their work that resembles meditation, a complete absorption in the present moment, a unity of intention and action. This state has many names: flow, presence, mindfulness, Wu Wei in Chinese, dhyana in Sanskrit. It is the state where self-consciousness disappears, where the doer and the doing and the deed become one, where time loses its ordinary quality and stretches or contracts, where the work seems to do itself through you rather than being done by you. Sleep, too, is a kind of flow state, a surrender of conscious control, a trust in the body's innate wisdom to do what is needed without the mind's anxious supervision. As you drift toward sleep now, you are practicing this surrender, this letting go, this trust. You are allowing sleep to come rather than trying to force it, creating the conditions for rest rather than demanding it appear. The navigators who sailed the Pacific, who crossed thousands of miles of open ocean following star paths memorized from childhood, practiced a similar kind of embodied knowledge. They did not navigate by thinking, but by feeling, by reading subtle signs through senses trained through years of practice, by trusting their bodies to know what their minds could not fully articulate. Their navigation was a form of poetry, of intuition, of being in harmony with natural forces rather than trying to control them. You, too, can navigate toward sleep through feeling rather than thinking, through trusting your body's wisdom, through releasing conscious control and allowing natural processes to unfold. Notice how sleep has been approaching throughout this journey, how you have grown progressively more relaxed, more drowsy, more ready to release waking consciousness. This has happened not through effort, but through allowance, not through striving, but through surrendering. The scribes we met, Amenhotep in Egypt, writing hieroglyphs that would last millennia, understood that their work was not for themselves alone, but for the future, for people they would never meet, for times they could not imagine. Your rest tonight, too, is not just for you, but for everyone you will encounter tomorrow, everyone whose life will touch yours, everyone who will benefit from your presence when you wake refreshed and restored. The healers, Hippocles in the Greek Asclepian, knew that healing involves both body and mind, that belief and expectation have real physical effects, that hope itself is therapeutic. Bring that same healing intention to your sleep now. Believe that this sleep will restore you, will heal what needs healing in body and mind, will prepare you for a new day full of possibility and promise. All across this planet right now, as you rest, millions of other humans are also sleeping, each in their own way, in their own place, yet all participating in the same universal experience. In Tokyo and London, in Mumbai and Sao Paulo, in small villages and great cities, in deserts and jungles, and on mountain peaks, humans are surrendering to sleep, trusting in its restorative power, allowing consciousness to dissolve into dreams. You are part of this vast human community of sleepers, connected to strangers you will never meet, but with whom you share the most intimate experience. The nightly death and rebirth that is sleep and waking, the journey into unconsciousness and the return to awareness, the eternal cycle that structures all conscious life. The stars that shone on all these ancient peoples, on Babylon and Mohenjo-Daro, on Epidaurus and Loyang, on the Pacific navigators and the cliff dwellers, still shine tonight. Though many of those civilizations have vanished, though their languages are dead or transformed, though their gods are forgotten or renamed, the stars endure, constant in their courses, reliable in their patterns, indifferent to human history, yet essential to human navigation through time and space. Let yourself become like a star now, constant, luminous, serene, burning with a cold fire that asks nothing, gives light without diminishing, exists in a present that is eternal. You are both the star and the darkness in which it shines, both the light and the space that contains it, both being and nothingness, both form and emptiness. These are the paradoxes at the heart of existence, the mysteries that great traditions have circled for millennia, that we are both something and nothing, both individual and universal, both mortal and eternal. In sleep, these paradoxes resolve naturally, without effort, without thought. The individual consciousness that has maintained itself all day finally releases its grip, dissolves back into the source from which it arose, rests in the vast awareness that underlies all particular awarenesses. Your breathing now is barely perceptible, so slow and shallow that you might not be breathing at all, though of course you are, the body maintaining itself perfectly, requiring no conscious attention. Your heartbeat, too, has slowed to its deepest resting rhythm, each beat strong and complete, the pulse of life continuing its eternal song. You are sleeping now, or so close to sleep that no distinction remains, hovering in that borderland where consciousness meets unconsciousness, where waking meets dreaming, where the known world gives way to the mysterious realm that opens each night, that receives us all, that holds us in its dark embrace until morning comes and calls us back to the tasks and relationships that constitute our waking lives. But morning is far away, in a future that does not yet exist. There is only now, only this moment, only the soft darkness and the deep peace, only the gentle dissolution of all boundaries, all concerns, all the accumulated weight of being an individual self in a complex world. Release it all now. Let it all go. Sink into the emptiness that is fullness, the darkness that is light, the nothing that is everything. Sleep deeply. Sleep peacefully. Sleep completely. Rest in the eternal arms that have held all beings since consciousness first arose. that will hold all beings until consciousness returns to its source. The ancient peoples we visited tonight understood that life and death, waking and sleeping, are not opposites but partners in the dance of existence. Each requires the other, defines the other, makes the other possible and meaningful. Without death, life would have no urgency, no preciousness. Without sleep, waking would exhaust and ultimately destroy us. The rhythm of alternation between opposites is the fundamental pattern of existence itself. Rest now in that rhythm, that eternal oscillation between being and non-being, consciousness and unconsciousness, the great wave that rises and falls, that has risen and fallen since the beginning of time, that will continue rising and falling until time itself ends. If time ends, if there ever was a beginning or will be an ending, which may itself be merely an illusion created by consciousness, which sleep temporarily dispels, revealing the eternal present that underlies all temporal experience. Good night, dear traveler. Good night to all the scribes and weavers, navigators and healers, artisans and potters who have shared their evenings with us. Good night to the ancient civilizations that rose and flourished and fell, leaving behind artifacts and ruins and the ghostly echo of their wisdom. Good night to the earth and sky, to stars and stones, to rivers and oceans, to all beings visible and invisible, mortal and immortal, actual and possible. Sleep now, sleep deep, sleep long, sleep well. The journey is complete. You have arrived at your destination. There is nowhere else to go, nothing else to do. Only this, the soft darkness, the deep peace, the eternal stillness that was there before anything existed and will remain when everything has passed away. Sleep, silence. All words cease. All thoughts dissolve. All boundaries disappear. There is only the vast, luminous darkness that is both everything and nothing, both presence and absence, both being and non-being. There is only sleep, deep and dreamless, the blessed nothingness from which all things arise and to which all things return, the eternal source and ground of existence itself, holding you now in its infinite compassion, its boundless peace, its perfect rest.